and is only suitable for people aged 18 or over, will almost certainly have an adult theme, and might well contain sex or violence, which are quite graphic. It may also contain explicit language, including sexual swear words. Thanks for listening.
But here's what his revelation comes to him. He's kind of got all this stuff, like touching, wiping, mourning of the animals.
Not wiping, whipping.
Yeah. Also not touching.
I am dyslexic. I hope I'm not having like a stroke.
Do it live! Fuck it! Do it live!
And an atheist almost always becomes supporters of eugenics and abortion.
A swine is hungry for nuts. Jesus hates them too.
Satan is real.
Being a Satanist is an open declaration of revolt against counterproductive received wisdom and mindless rogue traditions.
Decapitate her head off.
We're done. You're done.
Obama!
Welcome to the Godless Rebelution. This is your home for all things ranty.
Yay!
Going down rabbit holes talking about Saturn III.
Whoa!
Oh, let there be light.
So people don't realize, but the light went out in here earlier, and now it just came back on. God must love us.
I have a light fixture in here attached to the ceiling with 2 bulbs in it, and one bulb went out, I don't know what, 3-4 minutes ago?
Yeah.
And then just decided to magically turn back on again. It's because we're recording now. That's
True.
what it was.
And
we weren't
obviously,
recording before. Now
obviously, the light bulb that went out is a way higher wattage than the one that's left in there.
I don't know. They look the same up there.
Yeah, but it just got way brighter. You're not supposed to stare at lights.
Why?
Well, you're colorblind, so you don't know.
What?
What? What the?
If you would have believed me, it would have been funny.
This is like some Donald Trump fucking logic here, right?
Well, this is episode 124. As we stated in the previous episode, Mr. Grant Larimer is with us because we're going to make a couple shorter
because
episodes.
It's all granty or ranty. You said ranty, granty.
Oh, right. Ooh, nice nice twist of phrase, Mr. Larimer.
I'll grant you that one.
We have other news stories and shit to cover. I made some notes from our previous thing. So,
Nipple Protrusion.
That's the name of the episode.
I'm trying to read
Nipple Protrusion Excursion.
Excursion. I was trying to read it upside down. Sorry.
Well, and sloppy handwriting of me writing over the keyboard, staring over the microphone while I'm trying to do it. So this episode, a couple episodes ago, we did the Commander-in-Chief forum. And they talked a whole lot about the VA.
Yeah.
And I wanted to get Mr. Larimer's input on some of the things that they talked about because you are a contractor for the VA.
I am. I've worked with the VA for 4.5 years now. And
you are a veteran yourself.
And I'm a veteran myself. I've partook in the VA services myself. And so, yeah, and I'm more on the research side than I'm on the medical side. But I'm fairly familiar with,
the research side. What does the research side of the VA do?
Well, the VA does a lot. The VA has, there are 3 main services. There's VHA, the Veterans Health Administration, cemetery services, which is a whole separate division of the VA. And then Veterans Benefits Association, the VBA, which deals with home loans and
like college,
business loans and college and all that stuff. In the VHA, in the Health Administration, there's the health side. That breaks down into a number of different categories, but there's the health side, which is the hospitals. Information technology, OINT, research, and a variety of others. On the research arm of things, there are VA researchers, doctors, and researchers, primary investigators, who also partner with hospitals in there. So the Salt Lake VA partners with researchers at the U of U hospital. To do research studies on all kinds of things related to veteran care, PTSD and traumatic brain injury and, new kinds of things, prosthetics and therapies, just kind of across the board. And there's research going on across the country. Pretty much every hospital, every VA hospital has a research arm. That there's usually a doctor there, doing some kind of, healthcare or some kind of research thing, that they have going on. And where I work, the program I work in called Vinci, we are kind of a central data hub of all the VA medical records. There are something like 136 VA hospitals, and they've been collecting electronic medical records now for over 40 years. The VA was actually one of the first to create an electronic medical record system. A lot of the private practice,
a database to maintain and manage all of those.
Exactly. A lot of the hospitals back in the day actually modeled their initial systems after the VA. And so the VA has petabytes worth of data. But it's all split up across. They didn't think ahead, and each hospital has its own database, has its own data thing. What my program does is it brings all of that data from all 136 hospitals for 40 years all into one
aggregates
central,
it all together.
Centralized database for research purposes. So it's a fucking gold mine of data. So, if some researcher has some theory about, for example, somebody presents themselves in the ER with elevated blood pressure and headaches and this and this and this, and then 6 months later they die of this, then, we have the data that they can use to prove that theory or not, or, and identify whether there's a factual basis behind that. Right?
So it's taking a lot of correlative data to turn that into causation data.
Right. And it's up to a researcher to do a lot of that. We just provide the data in a very safe and secure manner. And another arm of Vinci comes out of the Birmingham data breach, where a researcher had millions of VA records on a laptop. Laptop was stolen out of the back of their car. And it was a whole big drama thing back in the aughts.
A large to-do.
And it was a large to-do. There was a lot of sensitive information, a lot of personal information that was unencrypted, unsecured, that he shouldn't have. So another thing Vinci did was found a way to provide researchers with access to this data in such a way that they could do the work that they do, but do it securely, safely. They never actually have control of the data. It's always,
they can just view it.
They can view it. They can manipulate it. They can work with it, but they never actually have it in their hands or on their device or anything like that. And they can do their studies. We provide a bunch of software, analytical software. There are a lot of research teams. One of the great things Vinci figured out was that, a lot of these research teams, which are funded partially by the VA, partially by private grants and other grants and things like that.
So let me stop you for a second.
Sure.
So you've said Vinci does this, Vinci does that. Are you referring just to the software program, or what is it named after? Is it a person?
No,
you said
Vinci,
like one of the things Vinci figured out is this.
Vinci, like everything else in government, it's an acronym.
Okay.
Vinci stands for Veterans Informatics. Hell.
Vinci seems to work way better.
Veterans Informatics and Health and Care.
I work on two different programs at work.
It's an acronym.
CAR and FUTA, and I struggle to. And I've been doing it for 6 years, and I don't know that I could tell you.
I can't even remember it anymore.
Yeah.
So Vinci is a program within the VA. It's an acronym and it was specifically set up with this goal in mind to consolidate all the electronic medical records and offer it in a secure manner, so that things like the Birmingham data breach wouldn't happen again. So as I was about to say, one of the other things we figured out was a lot of these research teams don't necessarily have the finances for a lot of the state-of-the-art analytic software like SAS and things like that they really need. So Vinci bought a whole bunch of that itself and offers it on a first-come, first-served basis to research teams so that they don't have to use their precious limited funds on the analytic software that they need to run the things that they do. So and we're also creating a lot of custom software to help researchers pour through the data. A lot of now this slips from my mind too. I wasn't prepared to talk about this. I'm sorry. Where computers interpret language,
like where they, I was gonna say, especially probably handwritten, because
well, not translators, but like typed parsing
of data through language,
parsing of data through like a paragraph of information.
Okay.
So if you just want to look for, hey, I want to look at every file that says this person had this heart rate.
Yeah. So yeah, it's sorry, I wasn't.
Oh, no, you're fine.
But I mean, parsing, when you're looking at a doctor's notes, typed in notes of like 3 paragraphs worth of data, trying to extrapolate the patient's temperature from 3 paragraphs of data is sometimes kind of hard, especially with the English language being what it is. So we're developing software that does that. A lot of places do that as well. So that's a program I'm working on.
Well, that's very
more
cool.
Specifically.
So, but you're also a veteran who has
also a veteran
who has used VA services.
And I've been very disappointed by a lot of the coverage of this whole VA thing for years now.
Yeah.
So,
well, we talked about it a little bit pre-show, and you said a lot of what is being presented as problems with the VA really aren't as bad a problem as they're purported to be, or as they're portrayed in the media.
They're not being portrayed accurately, and that is a big disservice to the VA and to the veterans, and because of the inaccuracy of the way that it's being reported. The actual problems that the VA has, and I don't deny that they have them, but the actual problems that they have aren't actually being addressed effectively. They report all these things about wait times. I mean, that's a big thing. Wait times, all across the board. And the way it's being reported, it's letting people think that veterans across the country are sitting there and waiting 3, 4, 6, 8 weeks. And we should just let them go to a civilian hospital or a civilian doctor or whatever. And that's just not the case.
Well, you have those same wait times to go see a doctor in civilian world.
And that's one aspect, and I'd be happy to get to that. But more so, first off, there are a vast majority of the VA installations. And forget, I'm not 100% sure of the exact number. I want to say it's in the 80 to 85% range where there are no wait times. It's only a small percentage of the VA hospitals and clinics where there's a high demand and there are excessive wait times. And the ones where there are no wait times, it's not an issue, but that's not really being reported. And where there is high wait times, one of the things people keep saying is, well, just go to a civilian doctor. We should just let them do that. We already let them do that. If they can't get an appointment within 30 days, or if they live a certain distance from a VA facility, they're already allowed to go to a civilian facility and the VA pays for it. And that's not really widely
it's not talked
reported
about,
either.
Yeah.
And I just lost my train of thought. I'm sorry.
We're talking about wait times and that it's not being reported very well or accurately. And so the real problems aren't being addressed and taken care of.
And even with the wait times, and to your point about the civilian care, I mean, those things happen in the civilian medical environment as well. I mean, well, okay. So, I mean, a lot, the other thing that isn't really widely reported is that all of this has to do with making appointments with specialists, making appointments with GPs, making appointments. Every veteran, every VA hospital that I know of has an emergency room. And every veteran, as far as I know, and maybe I'm wrong about this, but my understanding is any veteran can walk into an ER and see a doctor today. They don't have to wait for anything. Now, no, they can't walk into the ER and get their prosthetic adjusted. They can't walk into the ER and get chemo or something like that. But but
if they have a legit emergency, I mean, that goes for any emergency room. That's part of the Hippocratic Oath. It's going, you can't deny someone medical help when they truly fucking need it.
Exactly. And so this impression that we're being left with that the VAs are sitting there suffering, they're sitting there bleeding out in their apartments or whatever and that they have to wait 3 weeks is kind of bullshit. Even in high demand areas, like we said before, like San Diego or like Phoenix, and where the problems were, the ER will service everyone who walks in that door. Now, there's a triage wait time and all that, but you get that with it.
But you're not going to be in the ER for 3 weeks.
No, you're not going to be in the ER for 3 weeks. And that's not really reported. Another thing that isn't reported is that when you call up the VA, at least with the Salt Lake VA, I'm not sure if this is, I would assume it's like this with one of the first things the recording says on the VA, when you call them is that if you're having mental issues, if you're having thoughts of suicide or something like this, call this number. There's this number, or it's either a number you call or you press 1 or whatever, and you get routed to a mental health professional.
Well, I know there's even a veterans specific suicide hotline.
Right. Okay. And I wasn't aware of that. So, and that might be tied into the whole thing.
Yeah.
If you go on the VA website, there are things in there that will route people. They are making great strides in trying to address the whole mental health issue. The services are there. The trouble is getting the veterans to them.
Yeah.
Sometimes, a lot of times. There are a lot of veterans out there who don't necessarily know that the services are there or know that they qualify for those services.
I think an issue too with especially in the service, people are a little bullheaded.
Yeah.
People are got the macho aspect going on. So when it comes to issues
that comes
like, I don't need to go in, I'm fine. Or
So, and as far as going back to wait times, and the wait times are a problem. The wait times have been a problem in Phoenix and certain other areas. And the reality is it's really a whole lot simpler than people are trying to make it. It's really just a supply and demand issue. There are certain areas like San Diego, like Phoenix, with high demand, with a lot of people that need help, and they're understaffed. And all the solution is hiring more physicians.
Mm-hmm.
That's a solution. There's certain areas like, the Salt Lake VA, which is adequately staffed as far as I know. And maybe they'll see peak demand at certain times, maybe a couple of weeks. They'll have a whole bunch of people and it will overflow their scheduling system, which is why we have that 30-day, overflow thing in place. And if they have a short-term peak demand, then that can be accommodated by, farming them off to, civilian. But in these perpetual peak areas, The solution is really simple. They just need to hire more people.
So,
and I know there's an argument, well, you just can't throw money at the problem, but yeah, you can. Yeah. You can just hire more doctors. Yeah. I mean, it's a really simple problem to solve sometimes.
Please stand by. The Godless Revolution will continue in a moment.
Here follows a public service announcement for the Two Skeptical Chaps podcast. Greetings, Americans! Over here in London, we are well aware that not all of you are loud, xenophobic, racist, sexist, religious nuts.
But many of your politicians who display these frightful traits seem to be quite popular.
Particularly a certain wall-obsessed, small-handed, best-word-using, daughter-perving, war-inciting, candy-floss-headed clown.
To those of you who choose to follow such balderdash, we strongly recommend not to listen to the Two Skeptical Chaps.
It probably won't be your cup of tea.
Otherwise, give us a listen.
Each episode, we cover any news or current affairs from across the globe.
Things that annoy or delight us.
That's two, as in the number 2.
And skeptical with a K.
The wrong way to spell it. Cheerio!
You and the Godless Rebelution will be reassimilated in 3, 2, 1.
So one of the problems that I've noticed, or that I've thought about anyway, is that in years past, or wars or conflicts past, we didn't have nearly as many soldiers returning home.
Alive. Yes.
Yeah, returning home alive. Yeah. Back before they had body armor and all of these other protective devices.
Well, not just that. It's the modern medical practices in the field that have advanced so much further to the point where it's like, like it used to be, hey, you got your leg blown off. Okay, let's put a wrapping on that. Okay, it's still bleeding. Let's elevate it. They're like, fuck that. Put a tourniquet on it. Yeah. It'll stop the bleeding immediately.
Yeah.
Dude's saved, but he's not going to have a leg.
So advances in field services, advances in protection for our soldiers, that when they're injured, they don't die as often as they used to in previous wars and conflicts. And so we have a lot more people returning that are broken. Mm-hmm. They're returning alive, but they have something wrong with them. They've got shrapnel, they've lost a limb, whatever, but they're still coming home alive, but now we have to care for those people.
Yeah.
Yes.
Have they been building many new VA hospitals to accommodate any of this, or?
To the extent that they can, yes, within the confines of the budget. I don't specifically know the answer to that, so I'm not gonna. I'm sure they're building as much as they can. I can tell you that from what I've seen, we never prepared. Mm-hmm. For back in 2003, when we got into the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, we never prepared for the outcome of it and all of these vets that were going to come home. And I don't want to guess at numbers. I'd have to do some research. I know that we didn't fund the VA to prepare for the number of vets that were going to come back injured and broken. And I would not be surprised if some time over that, 13-year period, that there were multiple VA cuts. It wouldn't surprise me at all, but I'm not sure what the numbers are. But I know we didn't prepare the VA for the outcome, and not even the outcome of the Iraq and Afghanistan wars, but the outcome of the other VA population, veteran population from World War II, Korea and Vietnam that are getting older and requiring more and more services. And we just haven't prepared. And this dates back to the early aughts. We just never prepared for. We never financed them sufficiently to do what they need to do. Mm-hmm. And this bullshit argument about farming them off. Well, if the VA can't do it, we're going to give you a couple of dimes to take care of the veterans. And if you can't do it on a couple of dimes, well, let's just farm them off. Let's privatize it. Let's farm them off permanently and let them, go off to the private sector. Is the most expensive fucking solution you could possibly, because they're going to pay a fucking $1.50 out on the private market for what the VA, it would cost the VA to hire a couple of more doctors.
Yeah.
You know, it's just fucking ridiculous. We need to fund the VA more appropriately and build up their resource. They do have problems. They have problems with an outdated architecture. You know, a lot of their software systems are outdated and need to be upgraded. There's an issue with a handoff of data between the DoD and the VA. And that's been ongoing because, I've actually been involved in this directly. My program was kind of we have a program called, so I'm with Vinci. We have a program called Da Vinci, which is the DoD and Vinci.
I use that program too.
Working on Da Vinci?
Yeah. That's the color grading program I use. It's called Da Vinci.
Oh, okay. the problem with this handoff is that the DoD built their own EMR program, and the VA has their own EMR program, and they're not compatible. And they've spent millions, probably billions, trying to make them compatible, and it just doesn't work.
Well, is it also an issue beyond with the services in their own, because every service has a different place where they keep their data or do stuff,
and that's
different programs.
Yeah, because I know when I went from the Air Force to the Army, it was like a fucking hassle to get my records switched over.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, the entire system, DoD to VA, all the services. I mean, it just needs a complete rewrite. I mean, and that would be fucking expensive. But if you really want to solve this problem, that's the way you do it. So, I mean, there are problems, but it's not.
They're not unique to the VA.
They're not unique to the VA, and it's not being reported accurately or concise. It's a complex problem, and trying to report it in talking points and a couple of bullet points and a meme here and there is doing a very bad disservice to the VA and the veterans, and doesn't help us focus on the issues at hand.
Yeah.
And ousting people like Shinseki, which, because of the whole Phoenix thing, the Phoenix thing was bad. It wasn't
VA wide though.
It wasn't, first off, it wasn't VA wide. And second off, and here's the other bullshit thing. I won't remember all the little bits and details about it. So I would highly recommend looking this up, because there's articles partially debunking this whole number going around from what's her name? The female, Republican candidate.
Bachmann?
No, not Bachmann. The candidate, Carly Fiorini. Fiorini liked throwing around I think the number was 700,000, or maybe it was 300,000. I forget what the number is.
We all know how Republican numbers work.
Yeah. Trump's using the number too, that 700,000 veterans died waiting for care in the VA.
Oh, please.
Or something like that. I forget what that number was. And the whole thing is bullshit. Phoenix was part of that. There may or may not be partial truth to that, but it's not what it seems. In the late 90s, part of the reason why that number is bullshit, whatever number they throw out of the number of veterans that died waiting for care. In the late 90s, the VA introduced a new database system, and they imported all this shit into this holding state. And a lot of people they imported into this holding state were already dead.
Yeah.
They were already dead when they imported them into it. And so now when they do these queries and come up with this number of 700,000 that died waiting for care, those were, a lot of those were people who were already dead before they even were part of this system.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of there's another chunk of people in that number that were people who just came to the VA just generally interested in services. They weren't like, they had thyroid cancer and they were looking to get cured, but they were just, coming to the VA looking for healthcare. They got miscategorized in this holding area, and then they ended up dying later on. And so now they're counted as dying because they came to VA looking about a home loan. You know, so it's widely, and there's a lot more detailed information kind of laying out why that number is so inaccurate.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember all of it. But I can tell you, I mean, the VA, the care people get at the VA, I mean, the rates of what customer service of the feedback people get as far as the care they receive when they get into a system is nearly 100%. The veterans love the care they get at the VA. Mm-hmm. The VA doctors and nurses, the researchers, the people in IT, people like, you know, in my department, things like that. I mean, we are busting our asses doing what we can for the veterans. And yeah, there are some who are taking longer to get in the door, and we need to fix that. And then the simple fix is hiring more people. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's really all it takes.
So one of the things that they discussed during the Commander-in-Chief Forum, it was actually discussed in the pre-show leading up to the forum. They had a pundit on there who was proffering his opinion on some of the things that could help solve a lot of the VA's problems.
Yeah.
And his suggestion was to just offer Medicare for all of the veterans rather than having separate VA facilities for them. Just give them all Medicare. All veterans returning, you know, you don't have to wait until the age of 65 or whatever it is for Medicare. You get Medicare now, and you can use that to go wherever you want.
And I honestly, I don't know. I vaguely remember that.
Yeah. But listening to you talk tonight about some of the costs associated and a lot of the other things that the VA does, it sounds like that isn't really a great solution.
No.
You know, it's more of a...
It doesn't seem like a highly cost-efficient solution.
Yeah, it seems like it would be more expensive.
Costly,
yeah, it'd be more costly, and they wouldn't get the level of care that they currently are getting with the VA.
I don't believe they would. And, you know, even beyond the cost efficiency, and, you know, that shouldn't necessarily, I mean, you know, these are veterans. They're broken and they need to be taken care of. And, regardless of the cost, that's not really an issue. But the VA deals with things with veterans that I don't believe that the private medical industry, as much as they care. I'm not saying they don't care. I don't think they necessarily have the expertise to address some of the things that veterans deal with in much the same way. I mean, you know, when you get your leg lopped off by a lawnmower, you know, that's a painful, traumatic experience, but it's not like getting your leg lopped off by an IUD.
Yeah, there's a lot more. You got the concussion factors, the mental aspects.
So the VA is dealing with a lot of these things in a very veteran specific way that I'm not sure the private community can necessarily equate to.
Or can address as efficiently and proficiently.
Yeah. And one other thing about the wait times, and this is something you briefly brought up earlier, that I don't think I point out. But I think it's important to note, you know, people even say that the 30 days, you know, waiting 30 days for an appointment with your dermatologist or your oncologist or whatever is extreme. You know, these are veterans. There's no one in any medical community, private, government, anywhere where you could call up tomorrow. I can call up my dentist tomorrow and say, you know, I want to come in for a teeth whitening because, you know, I mean, if I have like severe tooth pain or something like that, he'll get me in. But if I'm just coming in just because, you know, I just want to hang out, you know, he's going to make me wait weeks. I mean, my daughter waited 3 weeks to get an ENT appointment for a cough she had. Cause I mean, it wasn't a life-threatening thing. And, you know, there's no one in any medical industry that I'm aware of, setting aside, I mean, it's not like Rite Aid. It's not like Great Clips. I mean, we're not talking about Great Clips where doctors are sitting around on their thumbs, out in private practice.
I hope I get a patient today.
You've got an oncologist sitting around at great oncologist clips, sitting on his thumbs waiting for a walk-in cancer patient.
Yeah.
To do a mani-pedi on. It just, so, 30-day wait times is, it's not ideal, but it's what we all deal with throughout the medical industry.
Well, and it's shorter than I wait. I mean, I have to go into the dermatologist being a ginger with prior history of melanoma and other skin cancers. If I just cold call my dermatologist and say, hey, I'd like to get in for, to have you look at a mole or whatever, they'll say, okay, is it painful? Is it oozing? Is it obviously something really terrible?
Yeah.
And I'll say, no, it's just, my general check where you go through and circle different moles on my body that you want to take off for biopsy. They'll say, oh, well, okay, well, we can book you sometime 3 months from now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2 months from now, 3 months from now. So when I go to the dermatologist now, I know that when I'm there, I'll book my next appointment 6 months out because I go in every 6 months. But if I wait, if I go to the dermatologist today or tomorrow and have my appointment and then want to go and see him, and so in 6 months I call him, that then is extended out to 8 or 9 months because I have to go through that waiting period. So I'll set my appointment when I'm at the dermatologist's office for 6 months later, knowing that I need to get in every 6 months to have them do their regular check-on.
And it's a little ignorant to assume that it wouldn't be like that. I mean, that an expensive resource like a doctor or a nurse, especially a specialist or something like that, would not maximize their time, would not book things out in that way, while allowing for emergency care,
right?
And having breaks in there. I mean, if you suddenly have you're ginger, you have a 3rd-degree burn or something like that, and you need to get in today, I'm guessing your dermatologist would probably find a way to make that happen if there was a serious critical emergency or something like that.
Well, and I think most doctors build that into their scheduling systems anyway, that if there is some type of emergency for whatever specialty they practice in, they build into their schedule certain leeway where if there is an emergency, then they can see that person.
And that's what the VA does too, as far as my understanding of it. And over and above all that, again, there's the ER, which again, any VA can walk into the ER. Any active duty people. I mean, any military member can walk into a VA and even a lot of their families a lot of times, can walk into the ER and get treated, get diagnosed. And if there's some critical thing, they can get taken care of right then and there.
Lickety split. So when I first heard that, when I first heard that pundit toss out the idea of just providing Medicare, I thought at the time, well, it sounds somewhat feasible, but it sounds now like that's certainly not the ideal solution, and would probably just be a whole lot more expensive and ineffective anyway.
If we had if the country had a true universal healthcare system.
Well, and so that was my other bit of it, was when they said that, I thought, okay, well, maybe that would be good, because then it would be,
it would push us more towards universal health care.
It would push more of the population toward having universal health care for all.
If we had a universal health care system, then there may be elements of the VA that would be redundant. We have a whole VA hospital sitting right next to the whole U of U hospital.
Yeah.
Maybe we wouldn't need that duplication of effort. I think there would always be, setting aside veterans benefits and cemetery, there would always be need for veterans health care, especially on the research side and certain other specialty things. So, there could be an argument that if we had that there may be a duplication of effort, and maybe we wouldn't necessarily need a full-fledged VA hospital with an ER and all that. Maybe we just need, VA doctors, trained doctors staffed at the U of U hospital, for example. So that I don't know. I don't know off the top of my head.
Yeah. Either way, it would be
there might be
monumental challenge to get that change implemented across the board.
It'd be a huge shift.
Yeah.
Compared to the relatively simple solution of just hiring a few more doctors and nurses in the high demand areas and doing a better projection of what we need over the next 10, 20, 30 years, for staffing and staff up accordingly ahead of time rather than after the fact.
Yeah.
And it's really a shame. I briefly mentioned this, but it's really a shame that General Shinseki, who used to head the VA, was outed, was kicked out, voluntarily retired or whatever, because of the whole Phoenix incident. Because he was doing, I'm not saying the new director of the VA is bad. He seems like a nice guy. He's a business guy rather than a military guy.
Mm-hmm. So he's like Trump.
He's like Trump, but I mean, he comes from the healthcare industry, but he comes from the business side of the healthcare industry rather than the veteran side. I'm nothing against him, but Shinseki was really doing some really great house cleaning, and fixing up a lot of the issues that we were having. And it's a shame he took a fall for what a few bad actors in Phoenix were doing.
And something
that's unfortunate.
That probably wasn't really within his realm of or scope of control directly.
Yeah,
anyway.
Not really.
Somebody's got to take a fall, and it's really shitty that sometimes it's the person at the top who's actually implementing real and good change at an organization that ends up taking the fall for it.
Yeah. So those have been some of my thoughts about the more recent VA. And I wish the media covered it better. It's a complex issue, and complex issues can't be dealt with in bullet points.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got to look at the whole picture.
But that's what everybody wants these days. They want tidy little memes that they can
Twitter.
read. Yeah.
They want Twitter. I mean, it's the Twitter world. And
we live in the age of social media where Twitter is one of the dominant things. Facebook is dominant, where people don't want to spend any time investing. They don't want to invest a whole lot of time in researching what the actual problem is.
No.
They want to be able to look at a picture of Gene Wilder,
and to be honest,
in a Willy Wonka suit with a cute little tagline on it that sums everything up in a pithy little comment.
Yeah. And to be honest, a lot of consumers don't want to invest a lot of time in consuming a 5-paragraph detailed kind of outline of here are the real problems going on. They want to consume a tweet. They want to have everything encapsulated in 100 and whatever characters. 40, is it?
Yeah. So it's got to be something that they're very passionate about or has affected them personally for them to get involved.
Yeah.
Otherwise they form their opinion based on tweets and memes that are easily digestible, but may have really terrible information or are misrepresenting the facts.
And misrepresenting the facts to the point where it's leading people down the wrong avenue to blame the wrong problem on the wrong people and not actually solving anything.
Well, I'm not helping that out with my side business right now.
What's your side business?
Well, doing the promotional videos for people's businesses, and been doing a lot of like real estate people lately.
You've been doing a lot of real estate people?
Yeah. Right in the butt.
I've had a couple of real estate people I've wanted to do.
But no, I've been telling them like, hey, they want to be able to advertise on social media and get themselves out there more. And I'm like, to be honest, if you write a paragraph on Facebook, no one's going to read it. If we make a 1-minute video and don't go too much longer than that, someone might actually watch the whole thing. And I've been showing them like, hey, just watch the numbers on it.
No, you're
watch the numbers.
Right.
I'm like, they won't read it. You write stuff, you might get a few people reading it. You make a video, people will share and post that around because you're giving them the information. You're telling it right to them. They don't have to read. They don't have to put any effort into it.
Yeah.
Isn't it kind of strange? I was just thinking when you said, a 1-minute video, and I'm thinking back to the day where on Wheel of Fortune, Chuck would say, "We'll be back in 2 and 2. We'll be back in 2 minutes and 2 seconds," because that was the typical commercial break. Now, people have DVRs that they'll record a show so that they can skip past the commercials.
You can't even wait 2 minutes.
But they'll watch a 2-minute video or a 1-minute video to gain information, but that they won't really go beyond that.
No, I've been finding that with everything I've been reading about it, but 1.5 minutes is the limit.
Yeah.
You start going over 1.5 minutes, you'll start, because you can get people will show like the algorithms of, so many people watch the full video or this much of the video. You start going over, you start hitting that 2-minute mark, you get so many people that will click on it, watch the first 10 seconds and leave.
Yeah.
You have a 1-minute video, people will most likely stay and watch it till the end.
Yeah, well, and they'll look down and see the timer and go, "Ooh, do I really have 2 whole minutes to invest of my life into this thing?"
Because I really need to keep scrolling through Facebook to see all these other videos. And
I have, the light went out again. Yeah, they'll look at the time thing and go, "Oh man, how many tweets could I read or send in that amount of time?"
Which is sad. So when I tell people, I'm like, you 1.5 minutes, 1:30 max.
Yeah, that's why newspapers are dying, magazines are dying.
They want it now.
I just spent what 8-10 minutes rambling on about the VA, and really only about the first 90 seconds.
Well, see,
they don't know how long we're going to spend on that one particular topic.
But I think podcasts work a little different, because usually when people listen to podcasts, they're not just listening to a podcast and just that.
Yeah.
You're usually occupying yourself doing something else. So the podcast is usually there to, facilitate.
It's like listening to the radio in the background.
Noise.
Yeah. I listen to them while I work or while I'm driving or whatever. I don't walk into my study to listen to a podcast.
Yeah, you're not sitting listening to a podcast staring at a wall.
Right. Well, kind of a wall of monitors.
The old days, usually. The old days with the family gathering around the radio to listen to whatever they played. Whatever they played in the old days.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't ever see that happen.
The old comedy skits, Burns and Allen and whatever.
This is Matt Dillahunty, and you're listening to the Godless Revolution.
Christopher, I'm not sure if you believe in heaven, but if you do you think Jerry Falwell is in it?
No, and I think it's a pity there isn't a hell for him to go to. The empty life of this ugly little charlatan proves only one thing, that you can get away with the most extraordinary offenses to morality and to truth in this country if you'll just get yourself called reverend. Who would, even at your network, have invited on such a little toad to tell us that the attacks of September the 11th were the result of our sinfulness and were God's punishment if they hadn't got some kind of clerical qualification? People like that should be out in the street shouting and hollering with a cardboard sign and selling pencils from a cup. The whole consideration of this horrible little person is offensive to very, very many of us who have some regard for truth and for morality, and who think that ethics do not require that lies be told to children by evil old men. That we're not told that people who believe like Falwell will be snatched up into heaven, where I'm glad to see he skipped the rapture, just found on the floor of his office, while the rest of us go to hell.
Should we move on to some newsy things?
We can go on to some crazies.
Okay.
Those fucks.
There's a whole bunch of stories that we have here. I should have gone through and culled the best ones for sure. The one that I have pulled up right now is Steve Quail. Did you guys know that the recent flooding in Louisiana was actually caused by a weather weapon?
Oh yeah,
I did not.
It's up in Alaska. It's that what do you call
Sarah
it?
Palin?
No.
The weather wizard?
She is a weapon, but she doesn't control the weather.
She's a wizard.
She's keeping Russia held back. It's that one with the radar thing up in Alaska. Everybody's like, oh, it's controlling the weather. Maybe he says it in this thing.
The radar control. I don't know. Let's see what he has to say.
So we're not talking about like the DC supervillain, the weather wizard.
No.
With his weather wand.
No, this is a weather weapon.
Weather weapon. Okay.
The people who deliver the goods to the stores, the truckers are the best source of intel for what's going on.
Truckers are the best source of intel.
Yeah, of course. They know all the things that happen on the roads and in the truck stops.
Well, I figured they knew the best porn stores and hooker locations.
Yeah, they know all of the lot lizards.
what's going on. Now, here's what they say. The underground bases and the military bunkers and everything. They're saying those who have government contracts are running stuff night and day. And someday we'll talk about the vast underground highway that was built during the Cold War years that's 400 yards wide. The idea that this country is...
Wait, whoa.
What the fuck?
There's an underground highway? Like running across the U.S.?
400 yards wide. Running what? East to west?
This guy's nuts.
How much shit are they shipping on it to be 400 yards? Is it a 20? That's got like an 80-lane highway.
How many lanes are that is? What the fuck is wrong with your life?
I have a ghost. That's what it is. There's a ghost who plays with the light in here.
I would guess that an average 8-lane highway is probably close to 50 to 60 yards wide. And he's saying 400 yards wide.
So I'm trying to I'm visualizing like Evel Knievel, like jumping over on the football field, like 8, 10, 12 trucks, and how many trucks he would fit on a football field. And I feel like it's like 8 or 10.
Yeah. I mean, you figure your average car width is about 7 feet, and you give about another 2. Well, it's probably about, your average lane width is probably about 9 feet wide.
9 or 10 feet, yeah.
And this is going, but again, what, east to west or up to Alaska? Where the fuck is this highway?
Oh, it's underneath I-80.
It's underneath I-80.
Well, and it's interesting that this is coming to us from the Jim Baker show. Yeah. Where they have a permanent banner down at the bottom selling their food slop buckets.
Well, where do you think? How do you think their food slop buckets gets transported? Under the underground highway.
They're talking to all of the truckers who transport their food slop buckets.
Yeah.
$65 savings, limited time.
Let's see what else.
Does it say $100 donation?
$100 donation or more
plus shipping gets you a $65 savings.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Just call 1-888 you. And this and much more can be yours.
For a limited time.
For a limited time. Bend over, bitch.
The idea that this country is under a famine, a generated famine.
Actually, I wanted to back that up to where he was talking about the fucking trucks
highway.
Again. Yeah.
A generated famine.
I'm gonna back
As he's selling buckets of slop.
Generated famine because we don't have enough food.
Yeah, I'm gonna
we throw away more food than some countries consume.
Shit.
Yeah.
I mean, we have been made fun of by other countries for the amount of food we waste.
Yes.
Yeah.
Contracts are running stuff night and day. And someday we'll talk about the vast underground highway that was built during the Cold War years that's 400 yards wide. The idea
the fuck is he
that this
talking
country is under a famine, a generated famine. Anybody ever read my book, Weather Wars and Unnatural Disasters? Well,
no, we haven't, because you're a moron.
That was a book that was so ahead of its time, but it was all designed this. You control the weather, you control the food. You control the food, you control the people. You cut the...
Jim Baker looks really intrigued.
There was a standing wave.
Jim Baker looked like he was just like, oh, Jesus Christ, even this guy's too crazy for me. He's just looking off to the side, kind of nodding his head like, wow, who booked this guy? This was a fucking mistake.
So is that Jim Baker's what the fuck look?
He's just like, oh my God, this guy's fucking nuts.
And this is what's going on in Louisiana. There was a standing wave over Louisiana. That's a weather weapon, and weather weapons are real. And people, they knew it was going to come, but they still stayed. And that's what's tragic, because weather weapons are real. Secretary of Defenses have said they're real.
No, they
Congressional
haven't.
Appropriations, everything. So what you're watching...
Citation needed, please.
Yeah.
...is a nation under siege.
Oh.
Holy shit.
I'm trying to think of the actor in all the Under Siege movies now.
What the fuck is his name? You're talking the judo guy.
Yeah.
Steven Seagal.
We need to call him because we're under siege.
We need a guy with squinty eyes and a ponytail.
And Erica Laniak jumping out of a cake.
That's fucking nuts, man.
That is.
I really kind of want to read that book now. I don't want to pay for it, and I don't want to supplement his income. Part of me kind of wants to contact Tiffany to see if they have it at the library.
Well, I just thought it was funny because just the look on Jim Baker's face was classic. That was
See, now I thought he was there's a station up in Alaska. It's like a radar facility that everybody thinks is controlling the weather and causing storms because they're bouncing these electrical magnetic stuff off the ionosphere, which is causing storms. And it's like, no, it's a research station.
I hadn't heard about that one.
It's in all like the UFO conspiracy theory, fucking Alex Jones bullshit.
Yeah.
Alex Jones is bullshit?
I'm sorry to break it to you.
Sorry to inform you, Dan, but yes, Alex Jones is full of shit.
Quite full. He's so full of shit that his cock bag would be full of shit.
That would be Dampf. If you're doing a callback to the ball bag swimsuit that I posted, and that would be full of shit, it would have to come from Dampf.
I forgot that Dampf was shitting out of his dick.
Yeah, he had shit coming out of his dick.
Do you ever think that, about the day where Dampf might have some revelation and all of a sudden become atheist and all of his, and now he's like hardcore?
Not at all.
and he goes back and listens to these podcasts.
Maybe he wouldn't realize it was him.
Because he comes to realize, I'm an atheist. Oh, there's an atheist podcast out there. It's Utah. It's my buddy Dan.
Hey, it's my buddy Dan.
I'm gonna listen to it. Wait a minute.
He'd probably be like, hey, I wasn't the only one shitting on my dick.
I had that poster on my... He's talking about me, you fucking asshole.
No, my guess is that even if he were to stumble across these, he'd go, yeah, that guy sounds like a real dumbass. I'm going to have to ask Dan who he's talking about. The dude is so self-unaware, it's ridiculous. Like I said in the last episode when he was playing the fucking radio in the back, oh, you guys can hear that? No, we can't. Well, and then he asks a dumb question like that, like, I can hear it, I send him a message, he reads the message, he announces it to everybody else, and then says, you guys can hear that? No, I'm a fucking psychic, dude. I'm a wizard.
Next time, right on there.
A weather wizard.
Like, hey, Dampf, you need to take a shower. I mean, it's coming through the fucking computer right now.
I can smell you from here. What? You can smell me? I didn't know that was possible. Well, yeah, you got to quit rubbing on your monitor so much. Next up, we have Louis Gohmert. Yeah. And the thing that I thought was delightful about this was that Louis Gohmert, one of the most stupid people we have in all of politics, worse
than Trump?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Is saying that Hillary Clinton has made clear that she is mentally impaired. And I thought, takes one to know one.
Well, see, he's probably dumber because he's actually in politics. Trump is trying to get into politics.
Maybe. Let's hear what Louis has to say.
And I do want to warn, since most people here are Christians, and
I'm going to say something funny
about this.
Most people there who claim they're Christians really have no idea what it means to be a fucking Christian.
No.
I mean, as an atheist, I'm pretty sure I know more about what it means to be a Christian than...
Well, it depends on the Christian you ask. I mean, is it being Christian to hate on gay people or to hate on atheists, or are you supposed to turn the other cheek and love thy neighbor?
Yeah.
It depends on who you ask, I guess. But he said these things during the Value Voters Summit, last week. And so this is he's a fucking clown.
That's what Jesus did and still does. But, you don't make fun of people who are impaired, have special needs.
Unless you're Donald Trump,
who
Louis Gohmert supports. And you have Donald Trump on stage making fun of a reporter with cerebral palsy.
Yeah.
He's like shaking like this.
I don't know.
As we just made fun of a reporter.
We're making fun of Donald Trump making fun of himself.
It's mocking Donald Trump.
Okay.
Sorry to the reporter. I should know his name. Sorry.
And, whether you like her or not, Hillary Clinton has made clear she is mentally impaired. And
when?
And you hear the crowd start laughing. How has she made this clear? I'm excited to hear what Louis Gohmert views as clear evidence coming from Hillary Clinton herself that she's mentally impaired.
Do tell. Yes, please.
This is not somebody you should be making fun of. Now,
as he makes fun of her.
So I get the impression that in law school and along the way she's been very, very smart. But I don't know. Maybe it was the concussion, the fall back when she did. Or maybe, who knows? You know, they won't tell us what really is going on with her. But if I were going to smash cell phones, Blackberries, I'd use a 2-pound sledge. I think that's the most... Well, who knows? Maybe somebody got to wailing around and hit her again. I don't know. But
what?
But we need to be praying for Hillary Clinton. There's special needs there. There's mental impairment. And
there's special needs there?
Wow.
Did he just say there's special needs there? There's no impairment?
No, there is an impairment.
Oh, okay.
So wait a minute. She's brain damaged because she didn't use the tool that you would have used?
Oh, no, it's because she could have gotten hit in the head again.
Because when they were smashing the phone, she got hit in the head.
Yeah.
Because when they were she had them
Somebody
up to
could have
her
really
ear.
started wailing on her.
She had it up to her ear when they started smashing it.
Yeah, because she had to make sure it didn't work anymore, so they smashed it against the side of her head,
like an anvil.
Oh,
yeah. So
yes.
And she had the guy saying, "Do you hear me now?" And when she stopped hearing him say, "Do you hear me now?" she's like, "Okay, it's done."
And there was no brain damage.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How could one argue with that logic?
I mean, seriously, she can't remember. And I made the mistake. I got that stupid song in my head that Rush Limbaugh used to play, and it was to the tune "Try to Remember," and it's Hillary Clinton say, "I don't remember, my brain's in a blender." And so... Anyway, earlier this week...
But like Christ, we should not make fun of the mentally impaired.
Yes.
Isn't that where this started?
I think so.
So, anyway, earlier this week, when I was on Fox and Friends...
They're no friends.
That stupid line came back, and so it ends up being a headline, you know, that I said Hillary's brain is in a blender. But anyway, but that was not a proper thing to say because, again, I'm making fun of the mentally impaired, and that's not right.
What?
That was actually one of the more...
He was like he's trying to roast her.
Yeah. Well, and it was one of the more put-together things that I've ever heard Louis Gohmert say.
Well, he was looking down to read off his script.
That's true, he was. Because you could see the two spots on the top of his head.
I was
what
looking
was
at
that
that
all about?
I think he got hit on the head with a hammer while he was trying to smash a cell phone.
Like, as a guy who goes to the dermatologist a lot, I'm like, you should go and get that shit checked out, man.
He prayed for it.
Those were like dime-sized spots on the top of his head, and they were very symmetrical in their placement.
Well,
I'm thinking
maybe
that they're
where
actually
he filed down the horns.
Yeah, he filed down the horns. Louis Gohmert. I'm going to start Louis Gohmert has horns. That's my new hashtag.
But I've seen a lot of people go back to saying Hillary Clinton has had strokes on TV when it's the clip where she's surrounded by reporters and she's talking to one of them. Then a reporter behind her yells something at her and she turns her head really quick and kind of like bobs it. Everybody, look, she had a stroke. It's like, no, she was making a funny gesture to the person who keeps yelling at her from behind.
Mm-hmm.
That's not called a stroke.
Mm-hmm.
If she had a stroke, she wouldn't be reacting to anyone. She would just be twitching.
So, a couple weeks ago, I was watching... Actually, it's more than a couple weeks ago. It was...
Well, this was...
July 31st, according to this.
Yeah.
Was it July 30th? God, that seems... It didn't seem like it was that long ago.
Time goes by quick, like hours and... I don't know. I was trying to think of that soap opera. Time and hours
by so slowly.
was trying to think of the soap opera show with the hourglass.
Oh. Oh, that's Married with Children. Like sands in the hourglass.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
These are the days of our lives.
Yeah. But I
don't know that because I watched it or anything.
Oh man, my grandmother watched The Young and the Restless every day. That was her jam for years and years and years. She might still watch it. I don't know. But yeah, every day it was The Young and the Restless. As sands through the hourglass of time, such are the days of our lives.
I watched, it might have been Days of Our Lives, it might have been one of the others, for maybe about 6 months with my ex-wife back when I was still trying to hook up with her.
Before she was your ex-wife, or before you got married?
Before we got married.
Oh, okay.
Before we got married. Still in the kind of the, Romeo and Juliet stage of things. And I was, a stupid kid, whatever. But yeah, I watched it for like a few months with her. And it really is kind of fascinating. The whole daytime soap
suck you right in
thing. And it's so, honestly, Tuesday through Thursday is so pointless. It serves no purpose whatsoever. Monday and Friday is the only thing that counts.
So Friday it's setting up for
it's the cliffhanger. Right? Monday resolves the cliffhanger. Then Tuesday through Thursday is just moderate story progression until Friday, which they recap Tuesday through Thursday and then present you with a cliffhanger. So,
Well, so I watched this. This is a clip from last week tonight from John Oliver. And this was a much longer segment of the show. I'm just going to play, I don't know, it's roughly 4 or 5 minutes of it. But this is the one time that I've ever seen him visibly angry.
Authentically.
Yeah. Visibly, authentically angry about something that he's talking about. He's feigned angry before, like, oh, you people, blah, 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 blah.
This is pure raw emotion.
But he is actually, there's a visceral response where you can tell he is actually very, very angry about what he's talking about here. And in watching the full clip, I was also very angry, but it's just this last bit that I think will give you a real sense of...
It drives a point home.
Yeah, what he was talking about and why he's angry.
The RNC taught us that a party which used to be organised around a set of shared principles is currently organised around one man. And given that that is the case, his judgment is pretty much the only thing that is important when considering who to vote for in November. So to that end, I would like to show you something he said recently. And before I do, he has clearly said countless awful things throughout this campaign, any of which would disqualify any other candidate. Just this week, he declined yet again to release his tax returns, lied about getting a letter from the NFL agreeing with him that the debate shouldn't clash with football games, called Angela Merkel a moron, implied that Brazil brought the Zika virus on themselves, and encouraged a foreign powers hack of his political rival. Now, 2 of those didn't happen, but you're not sure which 2, and that's kind of the point.
Wait,
it is
Brazil?
Kind of the first time we watched this, the 3 of us were like,
"Oh, Brazil?
Really? That all sounds very, very plausible."
I think it was the Brazil and Merkel one.
The Brazil one was the one that I hadn't heard of before, and I was like, "He did that," and that was before he said that 2 of the 3 were fake.
And what I love is that he doesn't tell us which one.
Yeah, and I know the first 2 are correct.
Yeah.
Well, and the last one was when he said, "Hey, the Second Amendment, go use it, pretty much, if you want Hillary gone."
I'm not. Okay, so
Second Amendment remedy. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I ever actually heard the entire 5th one, so maybe that's why I wasn't clear on it.
All right, here we go.
Isn't it? Because Trump hasn't said one crazy thing. He said thousands of crazy things, each of which blunts the effect of the others. It's the bed of nails principle. If you step on one nail, it hurts you. If you step on 1,000 nails, no single one stands out and you're fine. That is how Donald Trump has managed to say pretty much anything in this campaign, seemingly without consequences. And yet, even with that caveat, his response when asked about that speech from Kizar Khan stands out.
I saw him. He was, very emotional and probably looked like a nice guy to me. His wife, if you look at his...
I love that Donald Trump doesn't know if he actually looked like a nice guy to him or not. Probably looked like a nice guy to me, and I'm not sure. I'd have to talk to myself later and figure it out.
He didn't actually watch it.
Wife, she was standing there. She had nothing to say. Maybe she wasn't allowed to have anything to say. You tell me.
She probably she wasn't allowed to have anything to say.
And that's the beauty of his accusations. You tell me.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it. I'm just kind of throwing this idea out there. I've seen it written somewhere.
Maybe she works for ISIS. I don't know.
I don't know. You
Many
tell me.
people have said that. I've heard people say that a lot. I've read it in a lot of places. People say this all the time.
You tell me. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. I'm only the presidential candidate. I'm not expected to know all this shit.
Blueberry pancakes?
It could be. I don't know. You tell me.
But plenty of people have written that. She was extremely quiet, and it looked like she had nothing to say.
Okay, for a start, his wife has explained that she chose not to speak because she gets too upset when she sees images of her dead son's face, you fucking arsehole. But I'm sorry. Please continue.
He said you have sacrificed nothing and no one.
Well, that sounds... who wrote that? Did Hillary's scriptwriters write it?
How would you answer that, Father? What sacrifice have you made for your country?
I think I've made a lot of sacrifices. I work very, very hard. I've created thousands and thousands of jobs, tens of thousands of jobs, built great structures. I've had tremendous success. I think
those
I've
are
done a lot.
sacrifices?
Oh, sure. I think they're sacrifices.
No, they are absolutely not. They are self-serving half-truths from a self-serving half-man who has somehow convinced half the country that sacrifice is the same thing as success. Honestly, the main takeaway from these 2 weeks is that, incredibly, we may be on the brink of electing such a damaged, sociopathic narcissist that the simple presidential duty of comforting the families of fallen soldiers may actually be beyond his capabilities. And I genuinely did not think that that was a part of the job that someone could be bad at.
You could tell he was really fucking mad there.
I don't know if it's the vape smoke in the air or steam coming out of his ears.
Yeah, he was really fucking mad at that. When he said, "No, you fucking asshole."
Yeah, I don't think that was in the original script.
Probably not. And how many of these great structures that he's built have been repossessed?
Yeah.
Or that he's gone bankrupt on, or that, fuck.
Or that he's probably raped models in.
And those aren't sacrifices.
Yeah.
No, they're not.
Donald Trump has not sacrificed anything in his life.
He's mixing up accomplishment with sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
Building all that shit, whether it's repoed or not, is an accomplishment. And, offering jobs to a lot of illegals and then lying about it and getting fined for it and all that shit. That's an accomplishment. It's not a fucking sacrifice.
Yeah, he's done very well at making money and taking money from people and pricing people out of housing areas and putting his name on buildings and defrauding people and
selling his brand.
Yeah. That's what he is. He is a brand because a lot of these places, he doesn't build it. He's an investor in it, and they go, "Hey, if you put the Trump logo on it, you'll make more money."
Yeah. Unless you're a steak or a vodka or a university or
a vacation
casino,
place in Cancun
or a casino.
Yeah.
The list goes on.
I mean, people do well, he's only filed bankruptcy 3 times. But he's got a lot of failed businesses too.
Jerry Falwell slaughtered nobody in his life. He may have misspoke once or twice, but he devoted his life to his religion. Do you have nothing good to say about him at all?
No, I repeat, Jerry Falwell lived on hatred and superstition and bigotry. He preached dislike of people whose lives he knew nothing about. He raised money from credulous fools.
You don't know anything about his life.
Now, excuse me, sir. You can either ask me on and ask my opinion, or you may not. But I don't have to be here.
Well, you could leave.
You spent the first half by saying I had no right to the opinion you'd asked me on to express. Now you're tiring me out. I repeat, though.
No, what I said is your opinion was thoughtless. What you wrote was crude and mean and hateful. That's what I said.
You took up all the time for my answer with your long, rather unlettered question.
Oh, okay.
Jerry Falwell just made a career out of sponsoring dislike and superstition, said that people he didn't like were going to hell, said the United States deserved to be attacked by Islamic fascists, said he believed that people would be raptured into heaven, leaving all the rest of us to wallow behind. I think his death is a deliverance. And if you say that someone who occasionally makes a charitable donation is a good person, then you have to say that Hamas and Hezbollah, who do all this charitable giving and charitable organizing, are the same.
I'm truly dumbfounded. I'm so dumbfounded. I know people don't like Hillary, and I get that. And yes, I'm a Hillary supporter. I came around to being a Hillary supporter too. I was originally a Bernie supporter. I didn't hate Hillary the way everyone does, but I didn't necessarily like her. I don't necessarily like everything about her now. No. But the more I learn about her and the more I've researched her, the more I know that a lot of things that people don't like about her are bullshit.
Yeah.
And they just haven't bothered to take off the fucking blinders. But I'm truly dumbfounded at the level of support Trump even has. And I don't think he's going to win, but to even have the level of support that he has, even setting aside the hatred of Hillary, that he could even garner that much support. I know they're racist. I know they're supremacists.
There are that many people who would actually vote for him.
That many people who genuinely support him, not necessarily just hate Hillary. That aren't going to Johnson or to what's her name, the anti-vax
Jill Stein
bitch. Who generally agree with him that there are that many fucked up people in America. I'm dumbfounded by that. I'm amazed.
Well, I think it's kind of like the mob mentality kind of thing. It's, hey, I've been given permission to be racist and homophobic and
to be as racist and homophobic as I really am.
Yeah.
Because somebody's giving a voice to that opinion and making it okay to say that shit.
Exactly.
And I understand that. I'm just dumbfounded by that there are that as many people as there appear to be in that group. I know that there's racism still in this country, homophobia and all that. I didn't realize it was as bad as this.
And the other thing too is I think a lot of voters are voting on that one thing and
single issue.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to think of.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people are like, well, why do you support Trump? Well, because he wants to get the illegals out.
Yeah. Build the wall.
What else do you know about him? Well, he's going to get rid of immigrants and he's going to give us jobs.
That's it.
But he hasn't said how. He hasn't explained how much money this is going to fucking cost this country to build this wall and deport these illegal immigrants.
Day one, when I'm in office, we're going to round them up. We're going to ship them across the border.
Obama has deported record number of illegal immigrants.
And we're at net zero illegal immigration, if not negative by now. And the whole thing with jobs, no one's, people say that but no one asks him about, we have what? Our unemployment rate sitting at 4.9%?
Yeah.
Somewhere around there.
Around there. I
think it's actually lower than that.
Depending on which economist you talk to, the definition of full employment by definition is 5%. In some economists' eyes, there are very few economists who count 0% unemployment as full employment.
Yeah.
There's always a certain small percentage of unemployment which is still considered full employment. And I look out there, there are fucking help wanted signs all over the goddamn place. There was an article in the Salt Lake Tribune just a couple of weeks ago of how the construction industry here in Utah is suffering because they can't find enough people.
Yeah.
And they're desperate for laborers, for construction people. There are jobs to be had. Anyone that doesn't have a job and wants one is, I don't know where the fuck they're looking.
Yeah, what industry they're working in or what their skill set is. Because,
maybe if you're a neurologist out in Tooele and you can't find a job, okay.
you may not know how to swing a hammer.
But I mean, if you're just kind of middle class and you can't find a job, I don't understand that.
But a good sign for me of how well the jobs market is currently is that last week I was contacted by the CEO of a company I worked for maybe almost a decade ago. The CEO of this company contacted me asking if I would do some contract work for them.
Yeah.
I mean, that speaks to my skill set a little bit, but it also means that she's having a really fucking hard time finding somebody to fill this position.
She had to go 10 years back to go, hey, this guy did really good.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, she can't find it through regular hiring means. She can't find it through any headhunting or recruiting offices around. She's digging through her contacts on LinkedIn for people that worked for her nearly a decade ago to see if they can help her with this.
Yeah. So I understand people are single issue voters and they throw out the whole jobs thing. The jobs thing doesn't make sense to me.
Well,
when you look at the economy, when you look at the numbers, and people throw around various other numbers about, the.
Well, when they go with the unemployment
the real unemployment rate.
Yeah. Well, they tend to go to places like Detroit.
Stop looking for work.
They tend to go to places like Detroit, where Detroit does have a problem right now. It was a booming economic area. Now it's not. And they go, well, look at Detroit. Look at Detroit. It's like, Detroit has a problem.
Yeah.
But
look at
the whole, look at a national scale. We are not having a national issue with this.
We don't measure unemployment that way.
No.
Detroit measures unemployment that way. Yes. But nationally we don't. And to compare unemployment now to 8 years ago, when Obama came into office, based on two completely different metrics, comparing national unemployment 8 years ago to Detroit's unemployment now that's fucking bullshit. Or even the real unemployment. There are 5 different levels of unemployment figures. I think I want to say it's like P1 through P5 or something like that. P3 is what is commonly used and has been commonly used for decades now. And to all of a sudden use P1, which is a much more strict figure and results in high numbers. But compare that to 8 years ago at a P3, and it might not be the P. It might be another. So sorry if I screwed that up. But it's still an unfair assessment of where we are as a nation. And it's just bullshit. And the fucking wall thing. I mean, that's the single issue voter thing. But
I hate them brown people so damn much. I'm going to vote for a president who'll get rid of them.
And nobody's doing. I mean, fucking hell. And the media is failing left and right to really look into this wall thing. There was a beautiful video.
Oh, is it that lays out all the price over like 20 years of it and the road construction and everything that had to go into making it?
It was the one with a guy talking, and it was kind of how a bill becomes a wall, and it was a cartoon of a bill.
Okay, I don't think I saw that one.
Oh, it's a wonderful bill. It's a wonderful video. And it doesn't lay out the prices as much as it lays out the complexity of large scale government projects, and that he would have to I'm not going to remember everything in it, but as a starting point, he would have to propose it, and it would have to be a bill. It would have to go through Congress,
appropriations,
go through the House, and go through the Senate,
funding,
and they would probably filibuster, and so you'd have to get a majority of that. It would have to go through a whole bunch of subcommittees and that, and even if that became real, then you'd have to go through. Oh, and they
all
listed
the bidding
off
and
all
the contractors, and
so the Homeland Security would have to be involved. The Coast Guard would have to be involved. The Bureau of Indian Affairs would have to be involved. The Interior Department would have to be involved. All of these, and this whole video listed out like 20 different agencies. They would have to Fish and Wildlife, all these things, because it crosses Indian land.
Yep.
It could cause flooding.
Yeah.
A wall like that could cause flooding. So we have to, agriculture has to be involved because there are farmers down there on our side that have to be taken care of.
Each of the state governments in which a wall would be created.
Each of the state governments, you know, and all these things would have to be involved. And each of those would be doing their own study about things, and the complexity of doing this. And any one of them could sue the Trump administration at any point.
I mean, just landowners being like, no, I'm not going to sell my land to you.
Yeah, well, that's where Homeland Security comes in with
eminent domain,
which is bullshit.
Which is bullshit. But Trump likes eminent domain.
Yeah.
He's used it multiple times, and we know from the Keystone Pipeline.
Yeah, or the stuff that's been going on lately with the people in the Dakotas.
The Dakotas.
Right.
We know that eminent domain is even, Keystone Pipeline, that's fucking bullshit. Keystone, eminent domain for a commercial product. I mean, at least with the wall, eminent domain is being used for a public purpose. But like Keystone Pipeline, eminent domain was being used for
a private entity,
for private profit, and not even American profit.
No,
a Canadian company to give Canadians fucking profit. So no, it's a wonderful video. I would suggest you look it up. It's like how a bill becomes a law. I think CNN might have done it.
How a bill becomes a wall.
How a bill becomes a wall. And
I will be sure to put that in the show notes.
It starts out with a little, it's kind of like the old 80s.
The schoolhouse thing.
Schoolhouse rock thing.
Yeah.
And it's a little cartoon Trump of a bill. It's a bill with
the hair.
Just a bill, just a lonely old bill.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there on Capitol Hill.
Yeah.
But the other big thing that people forget when they look at the immigration issue is the fact that a lot of these immigrants that are coming into this country are doing jobs we don't want to do anyways.
Exactly.
So who's going to go and sit out in a hot, sweaty field making no fucking money to pick all your fucking vegetables and fruits?
Nobody. The states where they've gotten rid of their undocumented workers,
they can't issues.
They can't hire people to fucking do it.
Because they don't pay well.
Yeah.
It's shitty fucking work.
Yeah.
And there was a video I saw a guy put out where he's talking about illegal immigrants, and he's going around, goes, these are the most hardest fucking working people I fucking have ever seen.
Yeah.
Goes, they're not sitting on their ass collecting paychecks. They're fucking looking for work. They want to mow your lawns, do construction for you, help you fix your house. They're selling fucking produce on the side of the highway just to make us fucking buck.
Yeah, doing whatever they can just to scrape by.
Because they don't get the social fucking.
They don't have a social net.
Yeah, they don't. So when everybody's like, "Oh, well, all these people are taking away from our, our
social security and our taxes."
Well, not social security, but the like food stamps and all that kind of stuff. They're all collecting all that. It's like, no, they're fucking not.
No. Yeah.
They don't. You don't come to America as an illegal immigrant and all of a sudden get fucking food stamps. It's illegal to do that. It's not how this fucking works.
I saw a news article one time on the Fox, and they was telling me all about it. Newsmax has this whole big thing about it.
If you come to America and you're illegal, you automatically get unemployment.
I've gotten Home Depot workers on a number of occasions to help me out with things around my house.
Yeah.
And they bust their fucking ass.
Yeah.
And I offer them, $10, $11 an hour, which seems fair for manual labor. It's above minimum wage. Maybe it's low. Maybe I should offer more. I honestly don't know how much to offer. But
they're taking the work, so clearly it's acceptable to them.
So it's acceptable to them, but they bust their ass so hard. I even give them more on top of that because they did such an incredible fucking job. And the argument is that I should be giving that job to an American. Well, okay. So tell me this. So when I wake up Saturday morning and I want to go out back and I want to dig a trench and mow my lawn and clear out some rubbish and all that, tell me what American I call up on a Saturday morning
to do that work.
And they're going to come over and do that work for $10, $12 an hour or even $15 an hour. I mean, what company does that?
None.
The Home Depot guys, they're the Uber of manual labor. They've made it easy for me to find manual labor on demand, and they found a great niche market and they know how to sell it. And so, tell me what American company I would call up Saturday morning to do that.
Like,
I don't fucking know.
Yeah, I had a buddy that hired a Mexican crew to do the mudding in his house, off the street guys. He's like, those guys did such fucking good work. Like, they had his whole downstairs, done in a half a day.
Yeah.
He's like, if I would have hired a crew to come in, I would have paid 3 times as much and it would have taken a week.
Yeah. And maybe the people I hired were legal. I honestly don't know. I didn't ask.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
They did a good
work.
job. They did a good job.
You don't own a company where you're hiring people as employees.
Yeah.
You needed some day laborers.
Yeah. So I don't feel like I did anything wrong. If an American company can offer me that kind of service, I'd consider that. But
they're providing a service that other people are not, and they're doing a good job at it.
I don't know who the fuck to call on Saturday morning.
Yeah. It may be under the table. They may not be paying taxes on it, but
well, yeah,
I don't give a fuck.
But they're also not going to be collecting Social Security.
Wait a minute. Okay, so I work in a software industry.
Yeah, and actually, they do pay taxes.
They do.
They pay consumption taxes.
Yeah.
They pay sales tax.
Yeah.
Anytime they have to buy anything, they pay those taxes.
Mm-hmm. I work in the IT industry, and I know for a fact that there are people like me who go out and freelance, who go out and help people fix their computers and shit like that, and they just get paid cash.
Yeah,
and
they get paid under the table.
They don't report those. How many people at the farmers market report that income? How many of these roadside fruit?
I'm not going to say I haven't done it. I did a lot. I used to do landscaping.
Yeah,
all under the table.
How many of these roadside farm stands and there's a fruit stand up in Sugar House. And all that. How many of those pay taxes?
Or the people who sell beef jerky on the side of the road, or any of that shit. To
argue that the illegal Mexicans they're not paying their income tax. I mean, it's a much larger issue.
Oh yeah.
And plenty of Americans are doing it too.
Donald Trump is.
Don't give me that shit.
Yeah.
Well, no, I wasn't using it as like hey, this is why we should get rid of him. I'm like, that's the only downside is like, it's.
I want to say I saw a documentary years ago that if all the under the table income were taxed, that it would boost our tax revenues by like 50-60%.
Or
that it's that under the table in America is that prevalent.
Wow.
Because you do an honest day's work and the government takes 50%.
And that's totally off the top of my head. And so it was some outrageous number that it's a lot more prevalent than we think.
Yeah. I believe it.
That seems like an awfully high number.
It may be. So totally off the top of my head. I apologize.
Well, like that landscape group I worked for, everyone was paid under the table.
Yeah.
Well, the only person paying taxes was the guy that owned the company. And from what we understood was, I was getting paid $20 an hour, but he was charging the client $50 an hour for each of us working there.
Now, and you can make the argument whether that's right or wrong universally. I mean, but to single out undocumented immigrants as being the problem.
Oh no.
Is unfair because Americans are just as prone to do it.
Yeah, just as guilty, if
just
not
as
more,
guilty as anyone else.
To be an atheist, you have to believe that it is possible, which I think is a far greater leap of faith. That's something that can be created out of nothing. When you look at the majesty and sophistication and the intricacy of the universe that we do know and comprehend, you have to believe that somehow that this energy could have existed on its own, and I do not believe that to me is a leap of faith.
You give me the awful impression, I hate to have to say it, of someone who hasn't read any of the arguments against your position ever.
If you have questions, comments, concerns, compliments, corrections, or concepts for content, contact the show via email at godlessrebelution@gmail.com, by text or voicemail at 330-81-REBEL, or Twitter the twatter at TGI Podcast. Thanks, bitches.
I mean, it's very strange to me that Mel Gibson, who's also spent a lot of his time making very vulgar and persecuting remarks about homosexuals, would appear to want to make a movie that's an appeal to the gay Christian sadomasochistic niche market. But I don't pretend to understand the lurid mind of this guy.
Well, cockily-doodly-doo, little buddies. Let's thank the Lord for another beautiful school day.
Thank the Lord. Thank the Lord? That sounded like a prayer. A prayer? A prayer in a public school! God has no place within these walls, just like facts have no place with an organized religion.
And not scorning the three delightful children who are everything to me and who are my only chance of even a glimpse of a second life, let alone an immortal one. And I'll tell you something, if I was told to sacrifice them to prove my devotion to God, if I was told to do what all monotheists are told to do, and admire the man who said, yes, I'll gut my kid to show my love of God, I'd say, no, fuck you.
All right, so I think our last story of the evening will be Kentucky Governor Matt Bevin.
I haven't heard of this guy.
You haven't heard what this guy said about the election of Hillary Clinton may call for shedding blood of tyrants and patriots?
No, I must have missed this one.
That clearly if Hillary Clinton is elected president, there's going to be war. This again,
a civil war
in the streets.
Yeah. And this again comes to us from that lovely group at the Value Voters Summit.
Oh, yes.
Where
it was nice.
Where all of the right wing
were probably like the Eagle Forum was probably there.
Yeah, all of these
nice groups.
Nice Christian people are expressing just how nice and Christian they are.
If Hillary Clinton were to win the election, do you think it's possible that we'll be able to survive that? Would we ever be able to recover as a nation? And while there are people who have stood on this stage and said we would not, I would beg to differ, but I will tell you this. I do think it would be possible, but at what price? At what price? The roots of the tree of liberty are watered by what? The blood of who? The tyrants, to be sure, but who else? The patriots. Whose blood will be shed? It may be that of those in this room. It might be that of our children and grandchildren. I have 9 children. It breaks my heart.
And because we don't have the draft, none of your kids are going to have to fight for anything.
And you're taking a quote from the Revolutionary War.
And they would be choosing to spill the blood of other people.
Yes.
It's not like they would be drafted into a civil war to go and kill people who support the United States government.
Yeah.
They would be seditionists. They would be acting in contradiction to the United States government.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These are the people, they are not even fucking patriots if they are doing that.
But these are also the same people that probably said when Obama got elected that we're going to have a civil war.
They're only patriots after the fact. If they win. If they win, then they're patriots because like
the whole Bundy crew.
History is written by the winners.
Right.
Yeah.
To the victor go the spoils, right? We learned that with Donald Trump a couple weeks ago.
And we get to do whatever we want.
That we can just go and take the oil in Iraq.
Yeah. It's ours.
Children, it breaks my heart to think that it might be their blood that is needed to redeem something, to reclaim something that we, through our apathy and our indifference, have given away.
No, I think
that if Hillary Clinton is elected, his children may end up dying because they would be part of a civil insurrection
against our government.
Yeah.
Well, to be honest, it's been like this for decades, and it's getting worse. It's growing in intensity, but it's been like this for decades.
Yeah.
To where you vote for the other guy, and it's the end of the country as we know it.
Yeah.
And no matter how many people say that, it never actually happens.
No.
And
odd that, right?
It kind of pisses me off. It kind of annoys me because, no, I didn't agree with Romney. I didn't agree with McCain, their points of view, their political ideologies. But I never thought that it would demolish the country, that they would disassemble America as we know it.
Or that you would have to take up arms in defense of what you really want to have happen.
And even Bush. I knew going in that Bush was a fucking idiot. It was fairly obvious he was an idiot. But I wouldn't have foreseen just how much of an idiot, how much damage he did.
Yeah.
And he did a lot of damage, but even Bush, as much damage as he didn't destroy the country. And we didn't have to take up arms against Bush. We just waited out his 8 lousy years and now we're rebuilding.
Yeah.
And, but this is the only way you can win with people anymore.
To go to the extreme.
It's to go to this extreme and just to sell this apocalyptic nightmare. And it's really fucking annoying.
Well, and I think with
that
Bush,
being said, I think Trump is an apocalyptic nightmare.
Well,
but he's the first that I truly am concerned about.
Now,
I was never really concerned about Romney or McCain. But
now, the sentiment you had before was saying, well, this never came true. And I was going to say, and then you kind of went there. But I don't, I, with the same rhetoric with Trump, is I don't think it will be on a national level of us going to war and our country completely breaking down. But I do think on an international level, he will be kind of a black spot. He will he'll destroy a lot of international relationships we have.
He'll set progress back.
Yes.
Decades.
Yeah.
If not longer. I mean, it's one thing to say that we all knew Bush was a moron going into it, and that he wouldn't be good ultimately for the country, and that we didn't know exactly how bad he would be. But even Bush, as inept and stupid as he was and is, you didn't have Republicans walking away from him and disavowing him, and dyed-in-the-wool Republicans saying that they cannot support the candidate for their party to be president because of how dangerous a proposition that is.
Right.
And you see that with Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. You see Republicans all over the place disavowing him and saying that they will not and cannot vote for Donald Trump because it would be disastrous for the country.
Yeah.
You didn't see that with Bush, and you see that a lot with Donald Trump.
True.
I think it's the first president that, or the first candidate for president that I can remember that, dozens and dozens and dozens of members of his own party are walking away from him and saying openly to the public that having this person as president would be damaging to our country.
Yeah. Well, it's like you were going through with the that video of how to build the wall thing. It would be very hard for him in this country to get what he wants done.
Right, exactly.
But the way he spouts off on just saying whatever he wants, I would be worried in a G20 summit or when he's visiting with foreign dignitaries, the problems he could cause there with foreign relations. That's where I really am concerned with him.
Yeah. So, I mean, maybe he wouldn't ultimately, maybe the Congress would prevent him from ultimately doing anything too catastrophically bad. Maybe he would damage a lot of international relations.
I think we can almost guarantee he would damage international relations with the way he talks about some of these foreign countries and the way he wants to do business with them. I think that's a given that he would damage those relations.
But maybe ultimately in the end, America would survive 4 years.
Well, he doesn't need congressional approval to start a war and to wage a war for 30 days. No. He doesn't need congressional approval to fire off a nuke at somebody if they're pissing him off. He doesn't need congressional approval for a whole lot of really fucking heinous things that he could do as president.
True.
I'm not sure what the nuke protocol is, but I'm pretty sure the guy holding the briefcase would be like,
no,
you are not getting these codes right now because you're drunk.
I would hope so. Yeah. I would hope he would just run away.
Yeah, you would hope so. I mean, what was the name of the Russian sub-commander who his last contact was, if you don't hear from us or whatever, then you need to launch your nuclear missiles.
And he didn't. Yeah.
And
I remember hearing that story.
And did not lead us into World War III because of this.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you would hope that
ultimately someone would make that decision.
You would hope that your fellow countrymen are not as dangerous as the president who may end up leading them.
But why even bother taking that chance? I mean, we never had these concerns with Romney or McCain.
No.
We never even had these concerns with Bush.
No.
We thought Bush was an idiot, but
not a nuclear war idiot.
No. But why even bother taking the chance on this guy?
I don't know.
I don't get the support.
Because people are blind to it.
They want a wall.
They want a wall. They want a Republican.
They want a wall that the border control says they don't want and will do no good.
Yeah.
That would be a pointless waste of money.
It would be a pointless waste of money.
Yeah.
And even I think with the wall, with the one they're going over the prices, they're saying after 10 years, every couple years after that, it would cost 5 times the amount of money to build the wall as it is to maintain it. Because they were going through you have to build roadways. You have to have crews that are maintaining the wall along the way to inspect them and do all stuff. So it's going to cost way more money to maintain it than it will cost to build it in the fucking first place.
Yeah. Yeah, it's ridiculous, and the people who think that it would actually be done are morons.
It won't be done. You're right.
Yeah.
Exactly. It won't be done. There's no way Congress would even pay for that.
Well,
There's no way it would even get through Congress.
Not even that it won't be done, but that it serves no purpose because, like, most of the illegal immigrants that we have in this country came into this country legally to begin with.
Through expired visas.
They're undocumented.
They overstayed their visas.
And that's why I ask
like
people, I'm like, so how does someone that comes into this country legally on a green card, then lets that green card expire, how does that wall stop them?
Yeah.
How does that wall stop a boat? How does that wall stop the tunneling of drugs underneath? How does that stop any of that shit?
Yeah.
How does it stop someone coming from through Europe coming into, New York?
Well, and apparently they're going to do the wall like 8-10 feet into the ground.
Then they just dig deeper.
Then they just dig a deeper fucking tunnel. But I mean, they're talking, I mean, at one point I thought they were talking about like tracking devices on visa, people coming in with a visa.
Oh no, it wasn't on the visa. It was on the fucking person.
Well, no, on the person, right? On the person. So
like
that
implant.
If they overstay their visa,
we know where they are.
We can track them down.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever see that video? They got a bunch of, and maybe it was mock. It might have. It was so fucking stupid. The whole thing was bullshit. It's like John Oliver was saying. It's hard to tell with Trump supporters.
Yeah.
But it was a video where they got a bunch of Trump supporters in for a focus group.
Oh, that was real.
Of the cartoon, or not cartoons, of the commercials.
Yes, that was real. That was,
and the guy that they hired a guy to be a Trump impersonator and say all these really fucking outrageous things.
That came from
and all the
Triumph.
Triumph the
Incel dog. They did that on their show.
Dog.
That was real.
Yeah,
right. And like they were proposing these ideas, like, well, we'll just put a portalets at Home Depot. That will lock. And then we'll just pick up the portalets and ship them and drive them to Mexico.
Yeah, put it on a truck and drive them back across the border.
And people were like, I think that could work. Yeah. And then they take it one step further and say, well, we'll just build like cheap housing and do the same thing. And now not only will they be back in Mexico, but they'll have a house.
Yeah.
And, that's humane.
That sounds very nice.
But what fucking blew my mind was that one woman who was like proposing this idea of going down, and they were saying, well, how do we keep, while we're building the wall, how do we keep Mexicans from coming in? And she was saying, well, we could just go down there with like an injection that we can say is a vaccine.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, well, if we're going to go down there with an injection, air quotes, that we say is a vaccine, and we're going to vaccinate, air quotes, all the Mexicans, then why do we need a wall anyway?
Yeah.
I mean, if
you're
Mexico,
overthinking this, Grant.
If Mexico becomes the American Auschwitz, then why do we need a fucking wall to begin with?
Yeah.
I mean, if that's a solution. And she was just going, everyone at the table was just kind of nodding their head.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
But then at the end of it, when they got those people to say like the ad slogans
Oh my
for them,
God.
it's like, fuck, they're saying this shit. Holy
That's
fuck. And they're not questioning it. They're not questioning anything.
Well, and that's why I'm saying I'm not sure if it's real, because it's hard for me to believe people are that stupid.
But they are.
I mean, when you throw in really ignorant people who already have one track of thought. Yeah. And then you throw in on top of that the group psychology of having them all together and everybody reinforcing
agreeing
those
with it.
Yeah, it's a recipe for disaster.
And then you add in the fact that Trump gave them a personal phone call.
Well, and then Trump gave them a. Yeah, no, I think that's a valid point, because who wants to be in a group setting? Who wants to be the one person who says
that's bullshit?
No, there's something wrong there.
Not many people can do it.
No,
because
it's really difficult.
Because then they're afraid they're going to be dumped on by everyone else.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they don't want to be the other. They want to paint everybody else as the other.
Yeah.
And they don't want, I mean, they're already in a group where all of the people there have painted an entire group of people as other and bad, they don't want to lump themselves in with the people who everybody in the room is saying is other and bad and that we need to keep out. Because then they'll be out.
Yeah. No, and that's true.
Yeah.
Bad humans.
Well, that wraps it up for us this evening. Thank you very much for tuning in, everybody. Thank you, Grant, for staying here as late as it is this evening.
Absolutely. Happy to join in.
I appreciate it very much. I'm sure we'll have you back again several times in the future.
Hope so. I love doing this.
Well,
I love ranting.
From the way it's been going with the numbers rising, I'm like, we're going to be in episode 200 in no time.
You think? it seems like it's coming a lot faster than...
That's like when you said, like, we're on episode 120, whatever.
Are you going to celebrate this time?
We should.
Yeah. We should think of something. We'll do something.
That's what you kept saying for 100.
Yeah.
But nothing came up. Like, we didn't, like, it fell to the wayside.
You get busy. Okay. Well, and it kind of sneaked up on us. Like, we didn't even really think about it until we were...
You've all got jobs and...
Well, and we didn't really even think about it until we were into...
You were like episode 96 or something.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was maybe in the 80s that we even really thought about it.
Maybe when we get to episode 150, we can have an episode 100 party.
Or that's when we'll know, we should start planning for 200. What are we going to do? All right. Once again, thanks for tuning in, and thanks for joining us, Grant. And we will chat at you all next week. Actually, next week will be, if all goes according to plan, a compilation of Matt rants that I'm sure you will all enjoy.
That should be fun.
And the following week, we will be covering the first American president candidate debate,
which will be a lot of fun.
Looking forward to that.
Unscripted Trump again.
I'm very excited for it. I'm sad that I'm not going to be here to watch it live, but I'll be in Mexico. So.
I'll be at work that night, so I'll get to watch it live.
Hopefully there won't be something that happens that instantly installs Donald Trump as president.
Borders are shut down.
And a wall is built by the time we're back.
Who's moderating? Is that the NBC with Lester Holt?
I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
I'd have to look into that, but yeah. But we will be covering that on the episode in a few weeks.
Okay.
Should be a lot of fun.
Cool.
All right. Say goodnight, ladies.
Good night, ladies.
Yes, again.
Yes.
I think that's long enough.
I had to swallow.
It's funny when the microphones pick up when you're trying to be quiet.